All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Kelly Roach Show. And as always, I bring you the best of the best. And today I have with me Nikki Sharp. Hey, Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly.
We've been trying to coordinate getting together for a really long time.
We have the life of
Nikki,
entrepreneurs.
the life of entrepreneurs, isn't it? So, just so that you all know a little bit about Nikki, not only is she an internationally known transformational coach and wellness expert, she's a best-selling author. She's been in Cosmopolitan and Vogue and Shape and Elle and every major publication and magazine that you could imagine. But that's not what's most special about her. What's most special about her is who she is and how she's helping people to live their highest potential and achieve what matters most to them. So, Nikki, I'll turn it over to you. For those that are just getting to know you for the first time, just share like a bit of a snapshot of your story and how you arrived at where you are and what you're doing today.
Absolutely. And thank you. That was a short but absolutely beautiful intro. So I got my entrepreneurship. I became an accidental entrepreneur. I never meant to become one. And in about 2013, I had an Instagram account that I was going through two eating disorders at the time. And I was posting headless body shots of myself, talking about my eating disorders, body dysmorphia, doing things like what was called Fitspo and meals that inspired me to really create a healthier life for myself. And it was almost like my online public diary. And so people started following that, what you would call an influencer before there was that word. And I created a detox program. It was 5 days, no, it like not a just smoothie or juice, like real foods, 5 meals a day for 5 days. And I did that and offered it to my audience at the time, and people started buying it. It was an $8 ebook. And I went on to sell 100,000 copies of that because it worked. And everyone wants the magic pill, and this was the magic pill in 5 days, and even in day one you feel amazing. So went on to turn that into an app. The app went number one in 6 countries within 24 hours, no paid marketing, really brought the community in with me. So we were all, they were messaging me and sharing, like, oh my god, it's rising the charts. I got a 2 book deal from Random House. And something just to mention is saying all of these achievements. It sounds both intimidating, I know, because I sometimes, even for myself, I'm like, geez, look at all of these things I've done and who am I now and what am I doing? But the reality was that I nearly got dropped from Random House for my second book because the first one didn't perform as well as they wanted because I had come out with the app. So I messed up the sequencing a little bit, didn't realize that. So really learning to go with the flow and shift gears. So managed to keep them on, did the second book, and then kept going really down my own, I guess, self discovery path. I was on TV, magazine covers, doing all of these things, and I was miserable. From the outside, I had what looked like it all living in LA, and I quit that life. I sold everything and I moved to Paris, and I had no idea what came next. And that's something really I think is not talked about enough in entrepreneurship, especially no matter what stage you're in. There's always going to be ups and downs and moments where you're thinking, what the hell am I doing? And what's next? And so from there, started traveling a lot. And then I got even more into the online coaching world and realized that I really had a knack for it. I loved it. And so I was doing online coaching before COVID hit. So I was already set up for everything. And my business really took off in a new way, in a different trajectory during COVID. And since then, I've been doing online programs, one-on-one coaching, both in person. And so that's the short version of it.
Yeah, wow, what a story. So let's just talk about some of the internal shifts that you went through, healing yourself through this journey, and ultimately finding your path in life where you are honoring your inner guide, your inner wisdom to actually create the life that you wanted versus responding and reacting and being and doing everything that the world around you is telling you to do. Because in essence, you just told a really long story about accomplishing a lot of things on the outside, but really what I hear is a person on a journey to becoming fully realized and actualized, and kind of going back to like, what did God make you for? And what is the essence of who you actually are when you strip away all the things that the world tells you that you're supposed to be? Is that any level of accuracy?
100%. And I have a huge smile on my face for those not watching because you're so spot on. And I think that we live in a society, and especially with social media now, and there's more reality shows. So celebrity has changed a lot. And I've never gone set out to be quote unquote celebrity or famous or anything like that. But you do hear this story quite often of people
Yeah.
who have it all and are still very unfulfilled. Like we can look at Robin Williams, for example. And so everything that I've done, as I mentioned, I became an accidental entrepreneur, not because, I mean, I love what I do for the most part. And everything that I do is actually very selfish, meaning I create programs and I do this inner work for me to help me become the best version of myself. And my purpose, and I think as entrepreneurs, and actually, even if you're not just entrepreneurs, but all of us want to know what is our purpose? Why are we here? And we get very caught up. And this is the way society, I believe, kind of teaches us that our purpose is associated with our job, with our career. And it couldn't be further from the truth because your career will shift and morph and evolve and change. And you
Exactly.
will lose yourself at some point, whether you're in a 9 to 5 and you get laid off and it's like, what's next? Or you're unfulfilled in that career and you choose something different. So, my whole thing has been, and why I brought up the society that we live in, is it is so easy to compare yourself to other people. And even in this stage where I'm at, I just took a little break from, well, I'm doing a break from Instagram because I recognized I was starting to compare myself to other people and what I'm seeing. And so once again, it's stripping back,
Yeah.
taking a step back and really looking within of what is important to me? What are my values? What do I want to be doing? What is fulfilling me and nourishing me? What is causing me stress? Where do I want to go? And these are deeper questions that I think we all should be asking ourselves, but fear often prevents us from doing so. And I'm sure you've experienced this, Kelly, of we get caught up in, well, we got to make money and we need to do that next thing. And then there's the thing after that. And so we're always achieving for something new and next. And what I've really recognized in my own life is getting the 2 book deal was amazing. And then I felt like a complete fraud. I was like, well, maybe I was just a one hit wonder. And then I do the app and it's number 1. I'm like, well, what's next after that? And so it took me many years to be able to actually slow down enough and strip away everything to look at my career and say, if I did nothing else for the rest of my life, I am so incredibly proud of myself. But for about 11 years in the process of all of this, it was never enough. I was always trying to do more. And that's it. I think we have naturally like a drive in us as entrepreneurs, but you also need to be able to slow down and acknowledge where you are and celebrate. And that's been kind of that next level for me in this evolution of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, I call it self-leadership. And especially for entrepreneurs that are so indoctrinated to the world of coaching. I'm a coach and strategist too, right? We're all bought into the idea of you need coaches and mentors and a support system and all of that. And we all invest in these things. And we're all like great students, right? We're always like, yes, I'm working on myself. And like, that's great. And that's important. But self-leadership is like knowing your enough point, right? Where you can slow down and actually trust yourself and make choices that are not, like you said, out of fear, obligation, habit, guilt, but instead out of just peace and knowing that you're where you're meant to be and like asking yourself where you're really being called. And it's like, to your point, most of the people that listen to this show have accomplished more than 99.9% of people on the planet and could stop right now, just like you, they could stop right now and they had a great career. But who are you becoming?
Yeah.
And part of it, and I love what you just said, Nikki, and I've been talking about this a lot lately, is the idea of no longer being rushed. Do you feel
Mm.
like your whole life you were rushing? I feel like my whole life I
Yeah.
was rushing until literally the last couple of years. I went through this like big transformation, part with my faith, part with just where I am in my life and where I feel like I'm being called to. But I feel like my whole life I was just rushing. It was rushing from success to a success, rushing from accomplishment to accomplishment. It was like you said earlier, it's like you do the book, then it's the next book, then it's the app, then it's this. And it's not, we're meant, I believe humans are meant to work. So I think we're meant to work and be productive and contribute. But I think there's a difference between an outside in versus an inside out.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
100%. And I love that you mentioned that too, especially for women, because it is so important for women in leadership roles or those, like a lot of people look up to me. And I give women, and just like what you're saying, Kelly, of giving women, especially, permission to slow down because of the society that we live in is a more masculine, dominated, linear, like drive.
Hmm.
And it is a doing society versus a being. We are human beings, but
Yeah.
most of us, like 99% of people, don't really know what it is to just be a human being. If you strip away, taking away your cell phone and not listening to something on a walk or just sitting, reflecting, right? And how many times, I'm sure you're similar to me up until this shift that you went through, but I don't have time to meditate. And it's like, that's the key thing that I've learned. The more that I didn't have time, that was the invitation that the universe
Yes.
or God or source spirit, whatever you believe in or want to call it, is guiding you to actually take that slow down. And as females, and for I'll speak for myself, the more that I've slowed down, the more clarity that I'm having. It doesn't always mean that
Yeah.
it's easier. Quite the opposite. I'm
No.
challenging myself in
No.
such different ways because of I'm not doing things in the way that I did them before, of this go, 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 hustle, keep like, what's the next thing? And this last year has been me trying to slow down as much as possible, slow down, be still, do what I can, even though it scares me because I was no longer feeling fulfilled. And what ended up happening was I was starting to resent my business. And I'm like, I don't want to just launch another program. I don't want to just get another client. I really want to be of service. So if I didn't have to work another day in my life money wise, I would love to continue doing what I'm doing. That's when you know you're in alignment. But can you still do that even when money is tight or even when your schedule is overfilled or you have a family? That's where the magic lies. And it's just as you were mentioning, it's finding that peace within. And then we tap more into the strength from the feminine energy. And I think this is coming up more and more as the world is becoming more of this masculine dominated drive, go, go, go place and more fear driven. So I think it's, yeah, the slowdown is great in theory, but super hard in practice until you lean into the fear from it.
It's 1,000%. And the breath is where all the beauty is. My husband's a musician and he's been writing music for many, many years. And in his earlier days of writing, it was very like loud and busy and nonstop. And it was just like, it was like a lot, right? And now the stuff that he writes as he's matured as an artist, like there's breath.
Mm,
And the same thing is present in our businesses and our lives. We can't, intuition, I think, is one of the greatest gifts that we've been given from God. And we don't really use it anymore because we are so externally focused that a lot of times people run around saying, I'm looking for answers, and all the answers are there. It's just you didn't sit for 5 minutes to even create a space to
yes.
hear them, right? And so I
Yes.
think the breath is so huge. And I think like masculine energy, feminine energy, they work together in perfect unison, right? They go together. But it is important for women to remember that we're earlier in our evolution of work because we've only been in this place for what, a couple decades. We're very
Mm-hmm.
early in the history of the evolution of women at work in this way. And so you do have to define what that looks like. I talk a lot, I mean, I homeschool my daughter with my husband, and I talk a lot about like the faith and family element of things. And I think a lot of women have taken the masculine role, but then they haven't recalibrated their home life and their relationship. And so now you have masculine and masculine, and now everyone's getting divorced because that doesn't, right?
Right. Lack of, yeah,
Like
it kills
there's a
polarity.
whole thing there. So I love how you're helping people to get back to honoring what I think is our natural state of being, but it does take a lot of peeling away. And to your point earlier, you said it takes courage. And that's really true because our learned safety is just go, 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 work harder, do more, because that's how we all got to where we were initially. That was
Mhm.
our learned survival mechanism. But then when you want to evolve and you want to become actualized as a person, you have to learn a new skill set, which is restraint. And to your point, courage, because you have to not be so scared that you're going to be left behind or have FOMO or like, I love that you said, how much courage does it take to say, I'm going to take a break on Instagram because I'm starting to compare myself? Like, there's so many things that you said here today, Nikki, that it's like, yeah, wow. Like that's the stuff right there. And so what can you share with all of our listeners today? You mentioned a couple of things that I think are really important. Obviously, we're going through a huge period of change right now in the world, which is causing a lot of people to be in fear and their businesses have been disrupted and they're having to recalibrate and work through all of that. What are some of the things that you're working on with your clients or pieces of advice that you would give?
I love that question. And a few different things came to mind. Something really interesting because I've been working with people for so long now, I've been able to track patterns. And 99, I would say like 0.8% of women that are coming to me now versus, let's say, 2, 3 years ago, their number one goal that they have, or their challenge to which the goal becomes, is they want clarity about their purpose and their career and how to make more money. That is different from 2, 3 years ago, where it was more women wanted to feel good in their skin. So that in itself is a huge shift. And that tells me a lot that the society that we live in, it is what it is, right? I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not putting it. Politics is like a whole nother beast and it's split down the middle on that, but it's bringing up a lot of fear. Then you add inflation and rising prices. Like, yes, it is true. We live in a challenging time for different reasons than we did a decade ago. But here's the key point that I want to get across from that. When COVID hit and the world stopped and people couldn't go to work and people were let go, we adapted. We adapted. It took us a little bit of time. And what's so interesting is everyone I speak to now says, God, can we go back there? It was so like the slowdown was amazing, but we were all terrified when it happened, right? Everyone was scrambling. How do I get online? What do I do? And so it's the resilience to know and the belief to understand that things will work out. They will be okay. We are adaptable humans. Like that is our brain is hardwired to be adaptive. And so no matter what you're going through, and this is really, I'm speaking advice to myself right now of whatever you're going through, it will be okay. It might be super challenging. And take COVID, for example, and the pandemic and lockdown, and we all shifted and we survived. And a lot of people came out of it thriving, and a lot of people changed careers. A lot of breakups happened, new relationships happened. And so, what I would say to anyone right now on the fence of fear or doubt or wanting more is to know that more is out there, but especially that based on this conversation, Kelly, of the slowdown is where the magic happens. It is why all the meditation teachers, all of the gurus, all of the experts say, sit and meditate. It's not to tell yourself not to have the thoughts and to stop thinking, but it's to stop trying to solve the problem with the mind, because the mind that creates the problem cannot find the solution, right? Which is
Yes.
where we have to lean into trust and intuition. And your intuition, well, you can't have intuition if you're not in tuned with yourself. And the quickest way to get out of tune with yourself is the go, 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 rush, rush, rush. And look, I have so much empathy and compassion, especially for women that are working and they have kids like you, and it's you have a husband and you're trying to manage all of these things. And sometimes it can feel like too much. And I'm in a space right now where I've essentially paused. Aside from private clients, I've paused my business and I'm like, I don't want to keep doing that because I'm burnt out, I'm drained, things are not working. And so I'm going to listen to the universe because it's giving me some signs. And in the slowdown, even though it's been scary, what I'm finding is I don't know the answers yet. I don't know what's going to come yet, but I know the first step. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the step after that? You know what? I don't know the next step after that. I just know the first step. And that's where that bravery and courage really, we really have to lean into. And I'll add one more thing on this is a year ago, I went through a divorce. It was I went through a public wedding, meaning it got written about in or online. I shared my whole love story with my audience. And during that time, my business was doing really, really well. And then I went through a divorce. It rocked my world. I moved countries from America to England, well, back to England. And it has been one of the most challenging years for me emotionally, on a financial standpoint, because statistically speaking, it's your income goes down and now you're paying for everything by yourself. So while it's been one of the hardest years, my business is also starting to shift and evolve and change because I'm recognizing from the inner work that I've done this year. For me, again, going back to that, I do everything so I can feel better, so I can heal. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I know so much more about relationships and psychology and how that ties into business and masculine and feminine energy and all of the like attachment styles. And I'm excited and dealing with narcissists. I'm like, okay, I can see there's little like sparkles of something coming together for this next iteration. And it's my quote unquote job from God or source to slow down, to let the path be unfolded rather than trying to rush into it, because nothing good comes from us rushing. A baby, it takes 9 months, right? To grow a baby in your belly. That's 9 months that you're waiting for this little bundle of joy to come out. And it's no different when we have a business. We try to rush ideas into the world. And it's one of the greatest pieces of advice that I was given years ago was, can you treat your business like a baby, like a child growing and really one step at a time from it? And so kind of all of that summed up is just having faith that wherever you are, it's okay. And giving yourself permission that it's okay if you're feeling bad and scared. It's like the words, it's okay. Because what we do is gaslight ourselves, we downplay, we minimize our problems. And to say it's okay no matter what you're feeling. And if you're feeling great and you're on top of the world, amazing. It's okay too. And nothing lasts forever, both the good and the bad. So to appreciate the good moments and to learn from the bad moments, because we're always going to be oscillating, just like lockdown. And then we all came out of it. And now everyone is like, oh, I wish we could take a breath again and like slow down from the world.
Yeah, no, it's so many golden pieces of advice there. And I think, you know, to your point, one of the things my dad used to always say to me, it was, Kelly, if you fill the whole canvas, there's no room for God. And
Mm,
sometimes we just get so caught up in more, bigger, what's next, you know, all of this, that we don't create the space for the magic. And that's really what I kind of feel like I just heard you describe. And I love it. And kudos to you for honoring and creating that space so that wherever you are truly called next, you have the energy and the space and the time to do that. And I think that, you know, all of us continue to grow throughout the seasons of our lives. And to your point, every good season that we ever had is only a result of a hard season.
yes,
There's
like
no
mic
skipping
drop
the
right
line.
there.
There's no skipping the line. And this is what I tell
Yeah.
people all the time. Every highlight of your life only happened because there was a really hard season where you persevered.
Mhm.
And to want to skip over the hard season and think that you're going to have that fulfillment. And for some people here, maybe they're in a stage of their career where it is an external success or achievement that they're working really hard towards. And that's great. I've had those seasons, beautiful, amazing. For some of us, maybe it's in our personal evolution and where we're going as human beings, not necessarily as human doings, right? No right or wrong. But I think it's remembering the importance of it's okay to be in a hard season and embrace it and say, you know what, I'm going to sit still. I'm going to plant my feet. I'm going to be here now. And I'm going to be in a positive state of expectation, getting ready for what's next. And I love
Mm,
that you're having that conversation, Nikki.
amen to that. And everything you just summed up everything that I said so beautifully. And one thing I want to add on, just as you're talking about that, the highest highs that we have come from those lower moments.
Absolutely.
Anyone who's, and I think this is all of us. Like
Yeah.
I was speaking to my cousin who's, I think she's 21, and she was saying, yeah, this last year I've been really depressed. And she said it to me kind of in a whisper, like it was a shameful thing. And I said, sweetheart, I've been in the same boat for the last year too. I've been through that many times in my life. You're not alone. And so, just as that remembrance that once you get out of that and you hit the happiness, you recognize how, like, you can only understand true happiness when you've had
Yeah.
those lowest of low days.
It
And
is
not
so true.
right. And like the goal is not to have these highs and lows, it's to learn how to make the waves smaller, softer, so they're not as up and down. But just knowing like the human experience is, anyone that looks at my life now and my travels and this would say, oh my God, once again, sort of like when I left LA, Nikki, you have it all and you've healed from your divorce. And I'm like, oh, it is the amount of tears that I've cried this year, the amount of days that I've sat not knowing what's next, or healing from heartbreak, dealing with kind of generational trauma and complex PTSD and all of these things. And I'm like, I wouldn't wish my journey on anyone because it is so challenging. But that's why I also try to share the realness behind the scenes, that it may look amazing from the outside. And that is why I got off Instagram, because I don't want people comparing their lives to me. I want you to use my life as inspiration. Don't look at me and put yourself down.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, use me to have a higher vision of yourself. Use me until you don't need me. But
Yeah.
when you start comparing yourself to me, maybe unfollow me. It doesn't bother me, or get
Yeah.
offline, take a break. So that's what I'm doing, is taking a break, because I shouldn't be, and I don't even like using that word, but it's not conducive for me, like for me to sit here and compare my life to you as an
Yeah.
example, because it's like we're in different stages and paths. And instead, looking at your life as an example and being like, wow, God, I love what she's doing. Where can I embody that? So, really leaning in to, instead of comparison, using people as inspiration. And if you find that you're comparing yourself, then taking a step back, because that's the inner work that we all have to do.
100%. So good. So good. Well, I know you have many new fans after listening to this conversation today, Nikki. So where is the best place for people to go to connect with you, to learn more, to study, and to be a part of your conversation in your world?
Instagram, ironically, I will be back very soon, just taking a small little break here. But yeah, Instagram at Nikki Sharp. I respond personally to every message. I would love to hear what any listener, what you took away from it, any ahas, send a message and share. I love connecting with my community and keeping the conversations open. So I respond, I do everything on Instagram myself, and then my website, nikkisharp.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for coming on the show today and for sharing all
Thank
of your
you.
wisdom and just authentic, journey, right, with people to help them to navigate there. So it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into the Kelly Roach Show. If this conversation was meaningful and touched you in any way, make sure you hit the share button and share this episode, because sharing is caring, and it's how we can serve and change more lives. Thank you for tuning in. Nikki, thank you for being here, and we'll see y'all back here in just a couple of days.